Okay, so let us start from where we left, which is this is part two of your introduction to inheritance. Okay, so we have been working with two classes, or sorry, three classes. One was the student, part-time student, and a full-time student. Okay, now there's one phrase that I have been mentioning that I said I will explain when we're doing inheritance, and that is protected. So we did mention a number of access modifiers. One was public, one was protected, and one was private, which is we don't have in our example currently. So if a method or a a data field is declared private, it means that it can only be accessed within this class. And if it's declared public, it means that it can be accessed outside this class, maybe in your main class or in your form or other classes which are not related to the student class or the child classes. But now if this is protected, like it said here, that if a field is protected, it means that only the child class that inherit from the student class can have access to that or maybe make changes to that class. So an example that we have here is a result that is protected. Now in the part-time student, what you do with the result is we say, since this is protected, so whatever that needs to be the result is set over here. But I do have an actual example in code of how you set the example, and I'm going to provide that in your code solution that I'm going to upload for you. Now, if you're working with inheritance, we now have something that is called polymorphism. Now, I'm going to explain the programming term of polymorphism. Now, this means that one method, okay, let me just read the definition. It says using the same method or property name to indicate different implementations. Now what that means is you can have, for an example, one method in the parent class where this method can mean something different in each of the child classes. And what an example for that is in our student class, we've got a student number, we've got a name, we've got fees, we've got exam number in the result. And then you've got a method that is called attendance. Okay, and we're going to apply polymorphism in this method that is called attendance. And here, this method has something called virtual. With the virtual keywords mean that the child class, which is this class, can inherit this method and make changes to the method. Okay, it makes this method to be visible. Okay, and in order for us to invoke this method that we want to apply polymorphism on, we have to use the override keyword so that we can be able to invoke this method. Now, you remember what it says? It says using the same method or property name to indicate different implementations. So it's this different implementations that you're going to do. So for an example, a part-time student, its implementation of the attendance method in the main student class is attends in the afternoon. So that's its implementation of this method. This is what this method means to this class. Okay, so that's what polymorphism means. So it says a derived class can override and hide methods and data from the base class. So for an example, since this is virtual, this class, which was part-time student, had an option of ignoring this method and not making use of this method. We're going to see how we can override or hide, or an alternative of this, okay, when we, I think, looking at part 4 of our video series. Okay, now this is how far we've gone, just what do we want to display. So for an example, since our full-time method, sorry, our attendance here in the full-time student, that says attend from the morning until the afternoon. So that's its implementation of this method, but unfortunately I do not have the code for this in the slides, but I do have it in the full program that I'm going to share with you. Okay. So now this is now we're working with the part-time student class. Now there's a keyword called base. What base means is it refers to the parent class. So if for an example here in this method we want to say return base dot attendance. Base.attendance is the implementation of the attendance method in the student class. So in the student class, the attendance method was nothing. It was just two double quotes. But now we want to say plus attends in the afternoon. So the actual implementation of this method will be anything that is in the base method plus attends in the afternoon. Okay. So now there's something that I wanted to show you that is called in classes implicit inversion. Implicit inversion makes use of the example. I think I did explain it in part 1 of the video series, where we explained is a relationship between the two classes. So for an example, our student class and these two classes, full-time and part-time, these two have a relationship with this class. They have an is a relationship. So a full-time student is a student and a part-time student is a student. So both these have a relationship between them and the student class, which is a relationship. So let us just read there. It says every derived class object is a specific instance of both the derived classes and the base classes. So this is what that means. And then you can assign a derived class object to an object of any superclass type. Then that makes what we call implicit inversion. And we're going to see what that means. So over here, we have got a method in your form CS class, and this method just displays the student number, name, whatever, and the attendance. And this method has one parameter that is called of type student object. Okay, and whenever we use this method, we need to pass a type student over there. So we've got two labels in our form. LBL form, info and LBL info2, and we assign that to send student info to this method, and this method requires us that we pass a type student to that. And in the first method, we pass full, since full is a reference type of full-time student, so we can be able to pass that. Why are we able to pass that? It's because here we require to pass a type student. Full-time student is also a type student, therefore we can pass that over here. And then in the second label, we use the same method, send student info. What do we pass? We pass part-time student because they say they require anything that is of type student over here, so we pass part. Okay. And then here is where we display. So we display that by clicking the send info button, and now that works in our two buttons. Okay. Thank you. I'm going to now record your third video. Please just make sure that you understand the content that is in this video in order for you to watch the second video. Thank you.